There's a place in Canada where towns don't just feel remote, they feel impossible. Winter lasts half the year, roads simply stop, and entire communities survive in conditions that would shut down most cities before breakfast. Welcome to the Yukon, a region so isolated and so full of strange stories that you're never sure if you're looking at a real town or a frontier myth someone forgot to debunk. Look closely and you'll find places that break every rule of geography. Villages with 12 residents, towns you can only reach by plane, a desert in the subarctic, and communities that look normal until you hear what happened there. And here's the twist. None of these places are abandoned. They're real towns with real people living real lives in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Which raises a bigger question. How do towns this strange survive? And why does almost nobody talk about them? By the end of this list, you'll see the Yukon very differently. And trust me, you are not ready for number 1. Number 10. Dawson City. The gold rush town that never moved on. Dawson City looks like someone paused the year 1898 and never hit play again. Wooden sidewalks, leaning saloons, and a frontier vibe that somehow still feels alive. Population? Approximately 1,500. Median home price? Approximately $420,000. Economy, tourism, mining, crime, low. The town sits on shifting permafrost and freezes to minus 40 degrees Celsius in winter, but the gold rush legacy keeps it going. Dawson preserved its old buildings instead of modernizing, turning the whole place into a living museum. But here's the moment where Dawson stops feeling historic and starts feeling bizarre. Its strangest tradition, the sewer toe cocktail, a shot served with a real, mummified human toe. Yes, people line up for it. Summer Dawson is loud and full of tourists. Winter Dawson is silent and pitch black. Dawson proves that some towns don't fade, they just get weirder. And if you think a town with a human toe in, a drink is strange, wait until you see the next place. Number 9. Carcross, the village. With its own desert, Carcross is a tiny mountain village that somehow has a desert, a patch of rolling sand dunes sitting in the middle of the subarctic. Population? Approximately 550. Median home price? Approximately $380,000. Economy? Tourism. First Nations art. Crime? Low. The Carcross Desert is actually a dried glacial lakebed, but it behaves like a real desert. Locals sandboard on it. Tourists stare at it like it's a glitch in the landscape. Bennett Lake adds another twist. Locals have reported a long-backed creature moving through the water for generations. Waves don't swim upstream, but something here does. And the strangest part of Carcross isn't even the desert. Summer Carcross is bright and busy. Winter Carcross is silent and snow-covered. Carcross proves that sometimes nature breaks its own rules. A desert in the subarctic is weird enough, but the next town breaks the rules of geography even harder. Number 8. Old Crow, the village you can only reach by plane. Old Crow is so remote that no road leads to it. Not in summer, not in winter. If you want to go there, you fly, which already sounds extreme. But Old Crow takes isolation to another level. Population, approximately 260. Median home price, not measurable. Fly-in community. Economy, traditional hunting, government services. Crime, very low. Supplies depend on weather. And storms can cut the village off for days. Yet the Vuntut Gwich'in First Nation has lived here for thousands of years, right in the migration path of one of the world's largest caribou herds. The airport is the lifeline. Food, medicine, mail, all flown in. When flights stop, the world stops with them. Summer brings midnight sun. Winter brings minus 40 degrees Celsius darkness. Old Crow proves that some towns exist simply because the people refuse to live anywhere else. If a fly-in village feels extreme, the next place will make you question why anyone lives there at all. Number 7. Mayo, the coldest town that refuses to quit. Mayo is one of those places where the cold doesn't just visit. It moves in permanently. Winters hit temperatures that make car batteries cry. And the town once held the record for the coldest inhabited place in Canada. Population, approximately 450. Median home price, approximately $300,000. Economy, mining, government services, small tourism. Crime, low, mostly noise complaints from snowmobiles. Mayo sits along the Stewart River, surrounded by mountains and forests that look peaceful until you realize they're frozen half the year. The town grew during the silver boom, shrank when the mines slowed, and somehow stayed alive anyway. But Mayo's story gets even colder the deeper you go. 2 Mayos. Summer Mayo, fishing, long days, quiet streets. Winter Mayo, minus 40 degrees Celsius, ice fog, and the kind of cold that makes your eyelashes freeze. Mayo proves something. Some towns survive not because they're easy, but because the people refuse to leave. But cold alone doesn't make a town strange. The next one nearly vanished overnight. Number 6. Faro, the town that almost became a ghost. Faro is a town that went from booming to empty to slowly rebuilding, all because of one mine. When the Faro lead zinc mine was running, the town was one of the biggest in the Yukon. When it closed, the population collapsed almost overnight. Imagine waking up in a town that suddenly feels half empty. That's Faro's reality. Population, approximately 400. Median home price, approximately $200,000. Economy, environmental cleanup, small businesses, tourism, crime, extremely low. Faro sits in a valley surrounded by mountains, forests, and wildlife. It's peaceful, quiet, and strangely beautiful. But you can still feel the echoes of the boomtown days. 2 Faros, Boom Faro, thousands of workers, busy streets, full schools. Today's Faro, quiet, slow, rebuilding one family at a time. Faro proves something. Some towns don't die. They just shrink until they find a new way to live. And if a boom and bust town sounds dramatic, the next one barely has more people than buildings. Number 5. Kino City, the town with more history than people. Kino City is the smallest community in the Yukon, and one of the strangest. It's a mining town with more abandoned buildings, artifacts, and stories than actual residents. Population, approximately 12. Median home price, unpredictable. Houses sell when someone feels like selling. Economy, tourism, mining history, a few stubborn locals, crime, basically zero. Kino looks like a museum someone forgot to lock. Old mining equipment sits in the open. Historic buildings lean in the wind. And the famous Kino signpost, a giant pole with arrows pointing to cities around the world, stands on a mountaintop like a landmark from another era. But the strangest thing about Kino City sits far above the town. 2 Kinos. Summer Kino. Artists, hikers, curious tourists. Winter, Kino. Silence, snow, and 12 people wondering why they live here. Kino proves something. Weirdness scales inversely with population. But if you think 12 residents is small, the next town sounds like a boss fight. Number 4. Destruction Bay, the town. With the most intense name, Destruction Bay sounds like a place from a video game, but it's real, and it sits along the Alaska Highway on the edge of Kluane Lake. And no, the name Destruction Bay isn't exaggerating anything. The name comes from storms that destroyed early construction camps. Population, approximately 50. Median home price, approximately $250,000. Economy, highway services, tourism, government jobs, crime, low, mostly highway-related incidents. The town is tiny, windy, and surrounded by some of the most dramatic scenery in the Yukon. Mountains rise straight out of the lake, storms roll in without warning, and winter feels like a boss fight. 2 Destruction Bays, summer, RVs, tourists, calm blue water. Winter, brutal winds, frozen lake. Survival mode. Destruction Bay proves something. Sometimes the name isn't an exaggeration. And if the name Destruction Bay feels intense, the next place is strange for a completely different reason. Number 3. Tagish, the quiet town, with strange stories. Tagish is a peaceful lakeside community until you start hearing the stories. UFO sightings, mysterious lights, strange events on the water, and the famous Tagish meteorite, one of the most valuable space rocks ever found. Population, approximately 250. Median home price, approximately $350,000. Economy, tourism, cabins, retirees, local services, crime, low. Tagish sits between mountains and lakes, with long quiet roads and cabins tucked into the trees. It looks normal, until someone mentions the meteorite that scientists still study today. But the weirdest part of Tagish didn't come from the sky. 2 Tagishes, summer, fishing, boating, long sunsets. Winter, quiet, eerie, and full of stories. Tagish proves something. Sometimes the weirdest things fall from the sky, but weird things don't just fall from the sky. Sometimes people build them. Number 2. Watson Lake, the town that turned signs into a landmark. Watson Lake is famous for one thing: a forest made of signs. Tens of thousands of them. Street signs, license plates, homemade boards, all nailed to posts in a giant maze called the Signpost Forest. And it all started with a single homesick soldier. Population, approximately $800. Median home price, approximately $300,000. Tourism, transportation, government services. Crime, moderate for the Yukon, mostly highway-related. The town sits near the BC border and serves as a major stop on the Alaska Highway. It's rugged, practical, and full of travelers passing through, but the pine forest gives it a surreal twist. 2 Watson Lakes. Summer, tourists wandering through thousands of signs. Winter, quiet streets and a frozen forest of metal plates. Watson Lake proves something. Weirdness can start with 1 sign and end with 90,000. And if a forest made of signs feels surreal, the final town takes Ghost Town to a new level. Number 1. Silver City, the ghost town that refuses to disappear. Silver City sits on the edge of Kluane Lake, surrounded by mountains and silence. It was once a mining hub, then a trading post, then a settlement, and now it's mostly empty but not abandoned. Population, approximately 10 to 20. Median home price, not really applicable. Economy, tourism, cabins, wilderness guiding. Crime, none. Old buildings stand in the wind, rusted equipment lies in the grass, and a handful of residents keep the place alive, living in one of the most beautiful and isolated spots in the Yukon. 2 Silver Cities. Summer, hikers, photographers, long golden evenings. Winter, deep snow, frozen lake, absolute silence. Silver City proves something. Some ghost towns never fully die, they just fade into the landscape. The Yukon's strangest towns endure because people there refuse to let the cold, distance, or isolation erase them. Each place carries a story, built from harsh landscapes, old legends, and a stubborn sense of identity. In a region this extreme, survival itself becomes the most fascinating mystery.